Hello my fearless friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Natalie and I got laid off from my job that I was with for the past almost 6 years when I was 12 weeks pregnant. I am now 22 weeks pregnant and I've been kind of transitioning into the stay-at-home content creator life. And it's been quite a bit of an adjustment. I wasn't sure if I was going to go back into the workforce once I arrived to my separation date. Even though I got laid off on August 31st, they agreed to pay us until our separation date, which was on November 3rd. Today is November 13th. I'm officially unemployed. I received my last paycheck on the 7th, I think. So now we're in that place where I'm trying to finalize my decision and just make a decision overall, and I don't have one. The circumstances around my employment status is so different. I think that if I wasn't pregnant, it would make sense for me just to go back to work somewhere else, but I am pregnant and I don't want to get a job with a company and have them trust me and then have me leave when I go into labor. Today when we're filming this, I'm technically 3 to almost 4 months away from going into labor, and I also believe that most places of employment don't give you maternity leave unless you've been with the company for 6 months. So I feel like my window to get maternity leave at most companies has already closed. So I think about that a lot as well. For anybody who is new here and doesn't know, my husband is a firefighter. So every week his schedule is different, which is one of the reasons that we really struggled with childcare with our first baby, because every single week I would have to modify my schedule to make sure that there was somebody taking care of our baby or that I was taking care of our baby while he went to work. And we were already having the discussions of me staying at home with baby number 2 and with our first. That way we didn't have to worry so much about childcare. So another thing that we really considered when we were having these conversations prior to me getting laid off was the fact that I was already unhappy with my job. I feel like my soul is tired because of my job and it not bringing me joy anymore. But it was a good job with a good company, and even though they chose to eliminate our positions, I feel like it's the best company that I've ever worked for, and I was very well taken care of when I worked for that company. And I think that because I don't have a degree, I felt like that company that I worked for was the best thing that I could do for myself, and I think that that's what made me stay longer than I should have. Let me tell you something. So I started working at McDonald's when I was 14 years old, and I started working at McDonald's because my mom had been working there her whole life. I had lots of jobs in between McDonald's and this last company that I just got laid off of, and I always kept my McDonald's job because it was like my security blanket. So at the time when I was working for Sephora, I decided that it was time to leave Sephora because it didn't accommodate for my McDonald's job, because I would close at Sephora, and at the time I was a manager at McDonald's. So I would close at Sephora and then I would go and open at McDonald's. In my head, that's all that I was good enough for, was McDonald's. And then eventually I heard about this job that I applied for, and I couldn't believe that they were going to pay their employees to get through 7 weeks of training. I think it was 7 at the time. And so in my head, I was like, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get this other job, even if I don't like it, just do the training, try to get through the training, get some extra money, pay down some debt, and then maybe find something else so that I can leave McDonald's permanently.
Eventually.
That didn't happen because I was baffled by the benefits that I was receiving for working for this company. I would say that it was my first adult job because at that point I had started to understand how important it was for me to have a job that had a 401k, that offered me health insurance, that offered me paid time off. I decided that after the training, I was going to stay. And eventually, I ended up leaving my McDonald's job for good, and I stayed with this company. Then about 2.5 months into working for this company and doing the actual job, being on the phones, talking to customers, I was like,
girl, I can't do this.
I have to go back to McDonald's. There is no way, like people are so mean. And I was getting anxiety every time I would have to start my shift because at the time I felt like I didn't have the confidence that I have now to stick up for myself or to be stern. And not to say that I have a lot of confidence now. I still feel like I'm one of the most anti-confrontational people that I know. I just didn't feel confident in myself, and I didn't feel confident in the knowledge that I had gained from the training to make me feel confident in the position. So I wanted to leave and I was going to quit. And at the time I think they were called, it was like a mentor, but it wasn't your actual boss who would mentor you. And me and her had built a really good relationship, and I told her like, hey, I don't think I can do this anymore. I feel a lot of social anxiety on the phones. So I think I'm gonna quit coming soon. And she told me that there was this position that had opened up in another department that she felt like would be good for me to try. And she said, you don't have to be on the phone. You don't have any real customer contact. It's a very independent job. That's as far as I thought that I could ever go, is to get a job like the one that I was about to step into. But from my understanding, a lot of people couldn't get into that role because they didn't have enough tenure with the company. At this point, I had only been there 6 months, and mind you, like 2.5 of those months I had been doing training. So I was like, I'm gonna apply. We'll see what happens. I don't even know what this job is. I just know that it feels like it's gonna be better for me than what I'm doing now. So I applied and I got the job, and I couldn't believe it. And then when I got into the role, that's when things really changed for me. The job that I got into was everything that I dreamed of at this point. I didn't have to talk to customers. The schedules were great. They were flexible. This is one thing that I will say from the get-go, is that I've been very lucky that every single manager, coach, lead that I had while I worked for this company was amazing. It was the best case scenario for me for a little while. Once I hit the 3-year mark, I think that's when I started to get bored with the job. And that's not to say that I didn't have any opportunities to promote into something else, but if I would have promoted the way that their career path is typically, I would have ended up being on the phone dealing with angry customers anyway, and I didn't want to do that. So that kept me from even trying to pursue anything else out of my role that I had. I just didn't have the confidence to feel like I deserved to do more than what I was in. I really thought that that role that I was in was all that I was worthy of. This is where we get to where we are today. I feel like I've always known what I wanted to do, at least for the last 10 years, which is to make videos, which is to have a platform to talk about mental health, to talk about the things that are hard to talk about, and to make it a safe space to talk about these things. I was introduced to all of this through YouTube, which is why I feel like I have such a loyalty to YouTube. I think that I've never really allowed myself to think of YouTube as my only source of income. I've always thought about like YouTube as a side hustle. It wasn't until I got laid off that I realized that the side hustle was more of a security blanket, because I don't feel worthy enough to have a job or make money from something like this. I am a second generation Latina. I feel like we were middle class, and I was 15, almost 16 at the time when our financial security got taken away, because we went from a 2-parent income income household to a one-parent income household. Mind you, my mom hadn't even received her high school diploma at the time. So McDonald's was all that she knew as well, and she had to support us on a McDonald's income. I've said this a million times, but I really don't know how my mom did it. And I don't know, but at the same time, now being a mom, like, I do know, because sometimes, and most of the times, we just get up and do the damn thing to make sure that our kids are taken care of. And that's what my mom did. She ended up having to get another McDonald's job to help us make ends meet. We had to get a lot of assistance from schools, from churches. I remember one time specifically, I haven't even started talking about it and I already want to cry. I remember one time specifically when they picked me and my sister Cassandra, who she's 5 years younger than me. They picked us up from school to take us to get winter jackets, because there had been a conversation that I had with the teacher at the time who let the groups at my school know that we needed help and that we were not in a good place financially. So all of this to say, as a second generation Latina, I owe everything that I am to the sacrifices of my mom and even to the sacrifices of my dad. It's hard for me to feel worthy enough to have a career that requires little output but brings me financial success. And I think that that's where I'm struggling. Like, I feel like I don't deserve to make content creation my job. When I got laid off, I was confronted with, do you really feel like you could do this? Because now that I have the time and that I have really been taking aligned action, I know that I can do it. I know that I can monetize this channel. I don't know when, because I can put out the videos, I can try to make them the best content that I can, but it's not gonna happen until God thinks it's time for it to happen. But it's weird because even that thought itself wasn't something that was tangible for me until I got laid off and until I had this time to really sit and think about what I feel like I deserve. What I'm saying is that for right now, I'm gonna stay home. I'm gonna make content and I'm going to try to monetize it, but I'm not going to allow myself to get into that place where I feel like I have to do it from a scarcity mindset, where I feel like I have to prove myself. Because I don't have to prove myself. I've always been deserving of living the life that I want. I just want to create content. I just want to make a community, to make people feel like my little corner of social media is a safe space for you to just like breathe and feel like your life doesn't have to be perfect. And I feel like my parents, because they are immigrants, they already had that mindset that they had to prove themselves here. But when I think about my parents and I think about all of the sacrifices that they had to make, I don't think that they sacrificed everything that they had to sacrifice for me to end up at a job that I don't like, for me to just get a job that pays the bills but doesn't fulfill me. It's hard to pursue something, to pursue a career when you don't know anybody around you who does what you want to do or who looks like you that does what you want to do. It's almost like I'm chasing this imaginary thing, but it's not imaginary because I see it happening online all of the time. And maybe I don't have somebody to show me how to do it, but maybe that this whole thing is happening so that I can show other people that are like me that it can be done. And even just saying all of that, like I feel like my brain and my heart are like at odds and they can't decide who's right, but I think they could both be right. And I mean, there's a reason why this is happening. There's a reason why everything aligned for me to be put in this chair right now without a job, pregnant, without the financial stress that I thought I would have. This whole video is to tell you that I'm not going back to work, at least not until my baby gets here. My circumstances are a lot more different than what most stay-at-home moms experience. And even then, I feel like being a stay-at-home mom is the hardest job that there is. I think I'm starting to feel like it's worth it if I'm also allowed to find fulfillment in the time that I do get to pour into myself and to pour into my content creation. I'm gonna hate myself when I edit this video because I know that I just rambled and I don't know if you guys were able to follow the bouncing ball, but I feel like I really had to say all of that. I feel like it really helped me kind of reflect and redirect my thoughts. I hope that a year from now I can look back at this video and be like, damn girl, you really did that. You really went after what you wanted to do despite how many voices in your head were telling you not to do it. I'm grateful that you're here and I'm grateful that you chose to watch this video. And I hope that you continue to watch my journey. I hope that you are staying fearless in your own life and you're pursuing the things that maybe feel uncomfortable but still feel right. Anyway, I'm so grateful for each and every one of you guys. I will see you in the next video. I'll see you on Sunday of next week, and I hope you guys are staying fearless. Bye.